Hey! Welcome back to our channel. My name is Ari.
And I'm Louise.
Today, guys, we're talking about something rather uncomfortable, I would say.
Yeah.
A little scary. It is a serious topic, especially in Japan. And we react to a video made from YouTuber Dogen, where he talks about earthquakes in Japan. Earthquakes don't really happen in our country.
No.
So for us, I would say it's almost extra scary because we never experienced. We don't really feel 100% prepared. I don't think anybody is really prepared, but in Japan, people have more knowledge about it. I guess.
Yeah.
So let's check the video because I think he also talks a little bit about culture that is tied to that. So yeah, let's just react to it.
Japan Meteorological Agency recently issued, for the first time in history, a caution warning for the LanCul megathrust earthquake. What does this mean? What do you need to do if you're living in Japan? Here's everything you need to know about Japan's upcoming superquake. Just south of the main island of Japan is the LanCul Trough, the underwater meeting place of two tectonic plates. One of these is the Eurasian land plate that Japan sits on, while the other is the Philippine Sea Plate, the ocean plate that cuts under the land plate. Now, as the sea plate cuts under the land plate, it drags the edge of the land plate with it, causing strain. Eventually, that bending land plate that's getting dragged down has to snap back up into place. It reaches its kind of flex limit, and this causes an earthquake. These earthquakes are called LanCul megathrust earthquakes as they occur along, again, the LanCul Trough, and they are always enormous in scale. Just how big are these earthquakes? Every LanCul megathrust earthquake in history has been catastrophic, with an average magnitude of 8.3. For reference, the Great Hanshin earthquake of 1995 had a magnitude of 6.9, and that was enough to knock over not only multiple buildings, but also the entire highway running through the heart of Kobe City. Because these earthquakes are caused by the land plate snapping back up under the water, the earthquakes are almost always accompanied by equally, if not even more devastating tsunami. The Meio Nankai earthquake of 1498 caused a tsunami so large that it washed away the temple of the great Buddha of Kamakura, and this is a place that's almost a kilometer inland. And the Hoei earthquake of 1707, which did occur along all five faults, caused a tsunami that was up to 25.7 meters in height. Or to make matters worse, evidence strongly suggests that these earthquakes also lead to increased volcanic activity. Many experts believe that the terrifying eruption of Mount Fuji in 1707 was triggered by that Hoei earthquake that happened only 49 days earlier. This is one of the most terrifying aspects of these earthquakes. A second disaster often occurs during the initial rescue and recovery effort.
So yeah, the one that happened 2011, I was watching this at work. And I didn't know that a tsunami comes with an earthquake. So I was like, how unlucky is Japan? They experience everything together. It's like, no way. But now that I know that this is moving, and then of course the water starts moving and piling up, etc. So it's not enough that it's an earthquake. It's like everything comes together.
It's very scary.
It's super scary. Also the volcano.
Yeah. It's like more, what else they can do?
What else? Yeah, it's like literally anything that can happen in a way.
Japan has it all when it comes to like natural
It's
disasters.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's crazy how safe Japan is as a country in itself. But then the biggest kind of weight to that is the natural disasters.
True.
Eruption of Mount Fuji covered Yokohama, more than 80 kilometers away, in 15 centimeters of lung-ripping volcanic ash. But just how devastating would a LanCul megathrust earthquake be to modern Japan? I imagine that most people watching remember, or maybe even some of you might have lived through, the absolutely catastrophic 2011 Tohoku earthquake. The Japanese government estimates the next LanCul megathrust earthquake will cause approximately 10 times as much damage as the 2011 Tohoku earthquake.
How?
But why did the Japanese government recently issue a caution warning for the LanCul megathrust earthquake? Why do we think, how do we know, rather, that another LanCul megathrust earthquake is coming soon. Earlier, we talked about the mechanism of the earthquake, how the sea plate drags down the edge of the land plate until the land plate can no longer flex and has to snap back into place. The thing is, this is not a one-time ordeal, because as soon as the land plate snaps back into place, the next section of the sea plate just starts dragging it down again. And history has taught us that the time between these snaps, between the earthquakes, is 90 to 150 years. Every 90 to 150 years, for as long as there are records, Japan has experienced a cataclysmic earthquake along its southern coast. You see, these earthquakes, along with the other earthquakes that Japan regularly experiences, they're one of the big reasons that Japanese culture is the way that it is. They're one of the reasons that Japanese products are so well built and that everything is double and triple checked here. They're one of the reasons why everyone works so hard here and why cooperation, why teamwork is so highly valued. Because the history of Japan, the history of the people living on this small, isolated island nation, is one of, among other things, working through some of the worst natural disasters that mankind has ever known.
This is very interesting. I like what he said.
And that makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense.
You don't have time to be selfish or like to think about you first. It's like the community. Like,
You have
how
to
do
work
we...
together. How do we deal with the next step?
In France, for example, we never have those.
So we don't have to work together and build that. And since he said like it's so back in time, did you see like the old kanji? The cause makes total sense in the way that Japanese people work together and plan everything. Wow.
2011. There's never been room in Japan for sloppiness or laziness or for going it alone, because these things have always meant certain death when the next natural disaster inevitably hit. Which brings me to my final point. It's generally perceived that Japanese people and foreigners in Japan are separate. Japanese people often treat foreigners as the other, and foreigners in Japan, myself certainly included, like to talk about how Japanese something is and laugh at the idiosyncrasies of Japanese culture. What I'd like all of us to try and remember today is that many of these idiosyncrasies were born from the natural disasters that would probably be anomalies in our home countries, but are essentially everyday life in Japan. 20% of all the earthquakes that happen every year happen in and around Japan. And again, every 90 to 150 years, Japan is hit by a cataclysmic earthquake that shakes the nation to its core. And this is why, while it's okay to play the gaijin card every now and then in a silly situation, we foreigners in Japan also have a very real responsibility to be prepared for the next big earthquake. If you live in Japan, you need to own an emergency pack. You need to know the location of the nearest evacuation shelter. You should probably be in decent physical shape, and at the bare minimum, you need to know basic Japanese. It's important to do these things so that the next time a major earthquake strikes, and it will sooner than later, we can all aid in the recovery effort rather than being a strain on the system. Because the faster that Japan recovers, the faster we can all get back to One Piece, Konbini, reliable trains, and Elden Ring. The Japan that we all love, and the Japan that, ironically, might not exist had it not been for these very earthquakes.
Wow. Wow. That's a really good video.
Yeah. Nanaro. I felt like he was talking to me.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think, you know, we make videos and
We
we
do.
talk about all of those like
We
funny
do.
things, and we all like to play kind of the gaijin card. But it's so true that like...
We have a real responsibility.
Yeah. And like even for ourselves, right? To be ready.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy for us to forget. We just like came into that country and we're
Of
like,
course.
yeah, let's enjoy. We should not forget like the history and the things that might happen
So true.
while we're here.
I think we should not forget the history, and especially like the reason why Japanese people are so prepared for things.
Yes.
It is eye-opening almost.
It is.
Like no Japanese would ever tell you this directly, I think. But there's always like, do you have an emergency kit at home?
Yeah.
Do you know where's the evacuation center? You should know these things, you know, because people went through a lot.
Yeah, they did. And I think the funny thing is like maybe Japanese people would not think of telling us because it's so
normal. Yeah.
It's like you don't need to ask.
Yes.
But because he is also a foreigner, right?
Yes, true.
He had this time of realization and he's
True.
like, guys, be prepared.
True.
So yeah, I feel called out, Choto.
Me too. I feel called out as well, and I feel like now, like I said before, we have a real responsibility to, if that happened, to help all each other, and especially help Japan in terms of like rebuilding it. Let's hope it's not gonna happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
But if, then we have to do it all together, I guess.
Yeah, and let's all be prepared.
Let's all be prepared. So yeah, as we said, I think it's important to know that we have to be prepared. We know that now. And I'm also very impressed how Japan can recover every time from that. Thank you, Japan, for doing that. Otherwise, yeah, like he said, there wouldn't be no One Piece.
No
and
karaoke.
No kombini. You know, so it's a serious topic and we're aware of that. With that being said, thank you very much for watching and we see you guys in the next one. Bye. Wow. Wow. That's a really good video.
Yeah. No. I felt like he was talking to me.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think, you know, we make videos and
We
we
do.
talk about all of those like
We
funny
do.
things, and we all like to play kind of the guiding cards.